Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Candy Talk podcast. My name is Monji Jaismi, and I'm joined by my co host, Bane. Bane, say hi to the people.
Hi everyone, it's me again.
Yes, disturbing the peace again. Okay, so today we are joined by a very special guest, a very, very let me not say too much before I read Tommy's bio, but we are joined by Tommy B, Aduratomi Bolade. I've known Tommy for quite a while now, from the days of Marire Hall in Unilag, and he's been in this game for a long time. He's an experienced cat, and I'm really excited to have him on the show. And I've been trying to get him on the show for quite a while. But he's a very busy man, very, very, very hard to track him down. But we finally we're finally successful in bringing him to the show. So really excited. So I'm just gonna talk about his bio a bit. Tommy is a journalism and media expert. He has experience in media, migration, and different topics like trafficking and all that. But most of his experience is in media, radio to be precise. He spent the better part of about 20 years, 2 decades. Can you imagine that? Working in radio and television, and he's worked in a lot of radio stations and helped manage their operations like Cool FM, Wazobia FM, Nigeria Info and Wazobia Max TV in Port Harcourt. More recently, it was pioneer staff of NN24, if anyone remembers, the network News 24, and he has worked as a reporter, presenter, and a producer for radio and television. Recently, he's been working with the International Organization for Migration to create radio content designed to help reduce incidents of irregular migration to Europe. I'm sure a lot of you guys know about that topic. Is one of the biggest issues we have right now in terms of migration out of the West African region. And he has received and he's created a number of radio content, including radio drama, skits, and public service announcements. He was nominated to the board of Dawn in the Creeks, U.S. State Department funded project, which worked to mitigate the likelihood of violence in the lead up to the 2015 general elections. He actually advised the board on the best ways to use media to achieve its aim, and the show actually aired on NTA, AIT, and Channels TV. So we are really glad to have you, Tommy.
Great to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and it's good to meet you guys.
Great, great, great. So today we are going to be speaking on a very hot topic coming out of Nigeria. I think it's the biggest news coming out of Nigeria. There's a lot to say, but we try and keep it short because we don't have a lot of time. And since we have a very important guest, we won't like to take too much of their time.
I'm sure he has.
Uh,
I'm sure he has better things to do than to be looking
sorry,
at
say that
me,
again.
looking at our faces.
Yes. So, Tommy, a few days ago, is it 3 days ago to be precise? A few days ago, I think we can start from when Lai Mohammed gave that interview, when he called that press conference. I think a lot of us
Mhm.
saw that something was going to happen. It was leading up to something, and
Yeah. Yep.
we sort of feared it. But there was someone that said something today. He said he's been following Lai Mohammed's body language and his press conferences and the things he's been saying about social media for quite a while. When he went to China, the things he said when he got back from China about the Chinese censorship of social media, and he's been working, and he feels that he's been working behind closed doors on how to make something like that happen in Nigeria. So when he came out to give that, I think maybe they were waiting for something to actually push them into implementing something like this. But of course, as we all know, the Nigerian government a few days ago moved to ban access to Twitter for Nigerians, and it's been implemented. And whoever is in Nigeria that wants to have access to Twitter has to do so via VPN. And now we are hearing, not hearing, I think the only issue now in terms of criminalizing people that are trying to circumvent that directive from the federal government is that you can be penalized. It can actually be a criminal offense for you to use Twitter. So, Tommy, this is the point. This is the topic that I would like to discuss today. So, what are your thoughts on this new development?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that it's an exercise in futility. I think it's a wrong or a difficult obsession carefully. Like three major incidents where the attention has been on Twitter during NSAS, when they chose Ghana for their HQ, their Africa HQ, and this situation with the president's tweet being taken down. It's almost like the government now has an adversarial position or adversarial disposition to Twitter as a social media platform. And I think, if you ask me, I think it's because Twitter serves the elite. Twitter is where the opinionated people, the, I don't know, educated people, if you like, the people who carry a lot of influence go to share their opinion. And from there, it goes to other platforms. You usually see that it starts off on Twitter, then it becomes talking points on other platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and the rest. And I think that is what they're trying to curb. But I think in today's world, it's a needless action. It's not going to travel very far, as we've seen. But of course, the government doesn't care. The government doesn't care about the optics. They don't care about the kind of the lack of goodwill they'll get by taking this action. They don't care about the collateral damage. I saw a news report today where it says that over 2 billion naira is being lost every day for every day that Twitter is shut in Nigeria. They don't care about that. This is the same government that implemented a border closure that almost didn't yield any economic results, and to a very large extent caused more harm to the economy of the country. A lot of things were grounded. The same government introduced a SIM registration policy where people were not allowed to buy new SIMs, and by extension, a lot of ancillary businesses couldn't do their business during that period of time. People who were doing car tracking and the rest, they couldn't operate their business in a period of 4 months or so. So you have a sense that this is a government that is ready to just take the most knee-jerk reaction and not consider the outcomes of such decisions. So they're not going to care about all of the bad press that has come out of this. They're not going to care about the stifling of free speech or even reducing civic space. They're not going to care about all of those things. But that is what is happening right now. You have a situation where a government now sees that people have some kind of outlet where they can dissipate their pent up frustration about how government is run in their country, how things are run in their country, and they want to close that down. They want to take it away from the people. They want to push people to look for other places or other outlets to get those things off their chest, as they've done with radio, as they've done with TV. And that is what is happening right now. But I don't think it's going to succeed. I think people are going to look for other outlets. I think people are going to converge somewhere else. And I say this because I think the way communication is now structured the world over has gone beyond some entity, an individual entity, be it government, corporate, to just take away that right from you and restrict you to a limited space to communicate. where it's been done, and you can say it's been done successfully, these are highly authoritarian societies where for years they've been authoritarian. But while Nigeria has that, the current government in Nigeria has that disposition, they have the likelihood to be authoritarian. Historically, Nigerians have stood up to authoritarian governments. We stood up to Babangida, we stood up to Abacha, we stood up even to Buhari himself when he was military head of state. I think Nigerians are going to push back on this, and I think Nigerians are going to win. Nigeria is not like North Korea. Nigeria is not like China. Nigeria is not like many of the Middle East countries where social media is stifled on a consistent basis. I think the Nigerian people are going to win this at the end of the day. I think that's where we're at right now. It's going to take a couple of days, and people are going to make a lot of noise. But at the end of the day, I think this policy is going to be reversed. But I think it's one that the government shouldn't have embarked on. If you ask me, they shouldn't have embarked on to start with. I think they should have just looked for back channel means. They should have just ignored it. They shouldn't have mainstreamed it. But now they have mainstreamed it. It's really put them in very bad light.
Interesting. I think thanks for that. Another issue is what I perceive to be the possible end goal. So for some people, or to some people, this might be the beginning of something, and they might be going somewhere with this. And the news that broke last night on the Nigerian government meeting with the Chinese government on how to create a replica of the Great Firewall that they have in China, where you can have like a separate platform to access internet, and you can then, and the government can then control that through that firewall. So you can block off whatever you don't want to have access to the internet, and you can then use that technology to properly check on anyone who you want to check on. So you can use it to monitor people on a more consistent basis. So do you think that is going to be implemented as well? Do you think we should worry about that? Because I was listening to a Spaces meeting this morning, and I think it was Shore who hosted it. I think they're planning to protest on June 12th, and they're already talking about getting permissions in different states and mobilizing people. That Spaces had over 1,000 people, and there was this lady on the platform. She was so passionate about the need for Nigerians to come out and fight this. And they spoke about the firewall issue and how, like you said, these things have been one of the strategies used by authoritarian governments for decades, and something like that is likely going to face a lot of pushbacks in Nigeria. But they are testing the waters, and they've been testing the waters for a long time. And I think this might be like the first step into seeing how Nigerians will react. What are your thoughts on that?
So they're going to, if they want to do it, knowing how myopic this government and most governments are in Nigeria, if they are going to, if they are bent on doing it, they will do it. But whether it will succeed long term is another kettle of fish entirely. And I don't think it will. Again, I mentioned Nigeria's history of pushing back against authoritarian government. I don't know if you guys remember. I remember very clearly when during Abacha, you would wake up and you would see tires on the road. This is Abacha that people were missing, people were being arrested, people were still pushing back against Abacha until 1998 when Abacha died. It was so bad that Abacha stopped coming to Lagos. Whenever Abacha had to make any kind of appearance, he would send what's his name now? I think it's Jeremiah Hussaini.
Yeah.
He didn't come to Lagos. He refused to come to Lagos.
I live in Abuja. He's not coming out. Even in Abuja.
But Babangida left because there was so much pressure on Babangida. Babangida didn't leave willingly. Babangida was forced out. He was forced out by civil society. He was forced out by his military bodies. So we have a history of pushing back against. We might not be as violent as you've seen in Colombia and other countries. You might not come out. You might not see the whole country engulfed. But there's always been this group of people, all around the country. No part of the country should take credit for it, that push back against. So I don't know if they will succeed long term as China has succeeded. But China is a bad example for this government to continue to copy. One thing that China has done repeatedly is guarantee that the prosperity of their citizens is tied to the prosperity of the country. China, more than any other country, has reduced endemic poverty in the last couple of years than any other country. China is minting billionaires. They are minting billionaires almost on a regular basis. The Chinese population have little or no reason to push back against their government because not many of them are suffering from oppression as you have in many of these countries that are copying the Chinese example. Yes, China clamped down on platforms like Twitter, Google, etc., etc. But for every platform that China clamped down on, there is an alternative. And people do not realize why China is clamping down on these organizations. China is also doing it to protect its homogeneity. Now, Mandarin is spoken by over 1 billion people. The Chinese culture is celebrated around the world. Chinese everything, Chinese music, Chinese movies, everything. All of these things are celebrated because they are keeping it within. Now, I don't support suppression. I don't support any kind of anything that prevents people from accessing the information they want to access. But the Chinese are doing it also with the mind that people will always have a yearning for these things. So there are alternatives. For a Twitter that's not there, there's is it Weibo or
Weibo? I think it's Weibo chat.
Yeah, Weibo chat. Yeah.
There are alternatives in China. So China isn't just taking it off the table for you. There are other companies that are, coming in place and giving you the same experience. I mean, there's this book, and I can't remember the title, that was talking about how China cannot even afford to have an uprising on its hands. So they have to ensure that everybody is well fed.
Exactly.
Everybody's pocket is full. And people are doing well. And if people keep doing well, they don't care whether it's the Communist Party of China or the Democratic, whatever. They don't care about those things because they can live their life with the fact that, their economic and other concerns are well taken care of, are protected by the government. And that's why you see that China is doing all these Belt and Road projects in places like Africa so that they can open more routes for entrepreneurs who want to either bringing goods into Africa and all of that. So China is a terrible example to continue to pivot to. And this is what we don't understand by this government. Don't you see the good China is doing? About the same time we're getting independence, China was a poor country receiving aid. At the time we were getting independence in 1960, China was a poor country. Today, China is probably the biggest economy in the world. China is so big, it can look the world and tell them to F off. You know what is happening with China and Australia right now? China is a threat to the West. And this was a country that in 1960, Nigeria was probably doing better than it was economically. So why do we just cherry pick? And that's what we want to run with. More so, China is a homogeneous country. Nigeria is too heterogeneous. Now, and we don't trust our leaders. If you look at the trust index, it's very high in China compared to Nigeria. We don't trust our leaders. So the next group of people are most likely going to come and are going to say, this thing was a misadventure to start with, and we're going to scrap it. You just have an overbearing government that cannot stand criticism, that doesn't have the intellectual muscle to match people when they raise cogent arguments about how they are running government or how they are doing badly. If I were them, with all of the people they have on their team, and they do have some people, you can say they are dubiously intelligent, but they have some people who are intelligent.
Dubiously intelligent.
Yes, they are. They have some people with some level of intelligence. Throw them into the fray. Let them have an open conversation with people. But when you have someone who is treated like an emperor, whose ways, his mistakes cannot be mentioned, cannot be questioned, you have this kind of situation. So what is happening is that people are trying to protect Buhari at all costs. They are trying to protect him from embarrassment. They're trying to protect him from criticism. They're trying to do any and everything possible to make him look good. And even he's not doing a good job of that. He's not doing a good job of that. And that's what, so this thing, yes, they'll do it if they want to do it. But I don't know. I don't know if generally, as I always say that one thing we lack as Nigerians is discipline. So I don't know if we even have the discipline to even implement this thing long term if we bring it in. I mean, the way I always see civil servants is some guy will just say, this thing, where would they use the monitor people say? Waiting be the thing. I beg me, I want to go watch ball, and something will slip through the crack. Look, see, this country to talk about where you have authoritarian regimes, right? People are meticulous. Do you see the North Koreans when they are doing their military drills? Do you see them? Do you ever see any of their military guys drunk like you see in Nigeria, carrying his rifle and just misbehaving? I mean, so I think the discipline also. So if you want to be a bad guy, if you want to be a bad guy, be a good bad guy. In our case, even being bad, yes.
We're poor at it.
You're poor at being bad.
You.
Because for you to be bad, you still have to be competent.
Yes.
There's the level of competency that goes with being like that, dictatorial.
I'm telling you.
And on China, I wanted to add some. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I want to add something you said on China. You see, people forget that the Chinese are so literate. Their literacy levels are so high. If you want to have a nation they realize that to have a nation that builds its economy, they need high literacy levels,
yep.
high level of skills. I mean, I've seen videos of I don't know what they call them. I think they call them like tech spaces, like a factory where people just go and someone assembled from just bits of pieces, someone assembled, was it a phone? It was a phone, a smartphone, in a matter of, I think it was under 2 minutes. From just different parts, just did and it was a working smartphone. So I'll try and get that video someday. I'll share it on Twitter. But so that's the level of, the technological advance that, the Chinese have. So, and again, you talk about discipline. They are much more disciplined than us. So first of all, we don't have the skill to be dictatorial like the Chinese. And like you said, I think I had this conversation with Mondiu earlier on today. I think China is a monolith. Like you said, China is a monolith. We are the very opposite of that. I said, if we want to copy anyone, I think we should be looking at maybe India or something. If we want to copy we should be looking at India. Okay, what is Modi doing? And try and see how we can copy that. And what has he done? He hasn't shut down Twitter. He threatened them, but he hasn't shut down Twitter. He had the same issues as well. He hasn't shut down Twitter. In fact, in his own case, Twitter didn't even delete his tweet. Twitter just basically did what they did for SARS. Similar what they did, for SARS, help amplify the
farmers' protest.
Yeah, for the protest, and so following the Chinese model is, like you said, is so, I don't even know, but I think it's a good thing that we don't have skillful dictators. To be honest, I think it's a really.
I think the last time we had a dictator that was close to intelligent was probably Babangida.
Yeah, it was.
And even he, I think that's where people would ascribe some intelligence to him. He surrounded himself with a lot of smart people who gave him advice. But one thing, and this is not about, I'm sure the subject of this podcast is not about dictators, but you see that many of these guys also have an ideological base. There's something they believe in, no matter how warped, no matter how crazy it sounds. But tell me, what does Buhari believe in? I mean, what is his ideology?
I think he's statism. I think he believes in statism. That's what I think, from where I'm sat.
So he's a bit of a communist.
Yeah, I think he believes that the state should have control literally over every sphere of of the economy, that's why you hear things like Buhari has commanded
he has directed.
Yeah, he has directed. You see, you hear him say he's directed some economic activity to start. I'm like, what? I think that kind of like shows his mindset, I think he believes that the government can actually run a command economy where you say, this is the price of rice, and that should be the price of rice, and he feels, and he and his fellow travelers, they feel that anyone who goes against that is being immoral. They feel that if people go against, like the rights that have been set, they're being immoral. They're not being human beings operating in a marketplace that should be free and for them to determine their price, and whoever wants to buy their products should buy. No, they don't believe in that. They believe that they somehow, and that's how a lot of them come across. Somehow they believe that it's immoral for you to make money from economic activities where there is no cap, where there is no, there's no ceiling determined by the government. I think it definitely does believe that, because if you listen to how he talks about the dollar exchange rate and things like that, you know that this is a man that believes that he can control market forces. Obviously, he's in la la land, because
he's in a different realm. Yeah,
that's not possible, and unfortunately he has yes men around him, and even more so, he has men who probably know this is wrong, but they know that they can be powerful. Some of them know that know they can wield a lot of power from his blind spots. So
yeah, it's about consolidating power. It's not about doing the right thing.
Yeah. So unfortunately, no one is going to tell him, sir, this doesn't actually work.
Yeah, it's not right.
Which is the tragedy of Nigeria.
Yeah, no one's going to tell him that.
Tragedy of Nigeria.
Yeah, it is. No one's going to tell him that. Oh, for example, trying to force Nigerians, for example, trying to force the CBN to, first of all, it should not be directing the CBN to do anything. You're breaking the rules. But that, let's just put that aside. But saying CBN should not sell, dollar foreign exchange to anybody who is importing anything. His obsession with importation. Yeah. So no one's there to oppose him, or to at least show an alternative way to go about things. Because
I have, sorry, Bani. Finish. I just have.
No, I'm done.
Okay. So Tommy, you spoke about TV and radio. I think you said something along the lines of control.
Yeah.
So what have you seen since this government came into power? What have you seen in terms of possible censorship or oppression or attempts to control the media, TV and radio, to be precise, as a professional in the space yourself?
Okay. So for one, I don't know if you've been paying attention, because it's my field. I'm seeing it more and more. You notice that you hear I Mohammed speaking on broadcast industry related matter more than the Director General of the National Broadcasting Commission. Many times you hear the minister actually saying that he has directed the NBC to do this, he has directed the NBC to do that. I know some guys at the NBC, and these are professionals who understand the broadcast business. They know the broadcast code back and forth. And I'm surprised that they take their cue from the minister, that they don't know what to do. The acting Director General of the NBC is a professor of mass communication. And even before he became acting Director General, he's been at the NBC for a very long time. He's been in the communication space for a very long time. So these guys do know their left from their right. But when you have a situation where the superintending minister probably has a way that he wants things done, people are going to wait for him to always lead. Because at the end of the day, these people are civil servants. These are not independent guys who can just say, "Oh, I'm walking out of this," or "No, this is how things are done." They can't stand up to the minister. I don't know any civil servant who has ever publicly or privately stood up to a political appointee. They know you know that you're going to transfer you to some Siberia where you're never going to see sunlight till you retire. So the bulk of them just do what the minister says, and that's my opinion. I'll back that up. So last year there was an amendment, there was an addendum to the Nigerian Broadcast Code, right? But a year before, a year before, the sixth edition of the code was released by the same MBC. Now, that sixth edition took about 5 years to put together. About 5 years. So they did the initial draft, they had industry people come, looked at it, made contribution. And a year after, you have an addendum to the same code, to the new code. Do you get me? And the addendum to the new code happened to tie with some of the comments, some of the views that the minister has been sharing. So these are things that the minister has said in public glare even before that addendum was made. The fine, the fine was increased to 5 million. It used to be maximum of I think 1 or 2 million. Now you can fine you as much as 5 million naira. Then you had the thing about sharing football rights or sports rights, and so on and so forth. All of these things were added afterwards, and you just know that this is not the MBC, because the MBC has been on the matter of working on the code for a decent amount of time. So you have a situation where the minister has taken over the function of the MBC. Stations are now a bit more afraid. We saw what happened with channels recently, where initially the license was suspended, and I think they made pleas, and that was just committed to a fine. You saw the station in Abuja, that's Human Rights Radio, got their license suspended. Nigeria Info got a fine of 500,000 naira. I think it was 5 million, but I think it was later reduced to 500,000 because they had that ex CBN man who made an allegation. He was on a live interview and made an allegation. The presenter corrected him. It's not like the station allowed him, but the station was penalized because, in their opinion, the station gave their platform to the guy to make that statement, right? So the station, and when they do that, really, when you punish a station in that manner, not for what the station did directly, but what somebody did on their platform, what you're trying to do is you're trying to send a message to other stations. A couple of years ago, this was under Jonathan Labaramako, some station in Kaduna said that the good governance tour was a waste of money. Somebody called and said the good governance tour was a waste of money. Remember, Labaramako was doing that back then. The station was penalized. They were fined 2 million naira back then. How do you fine a station 2 million naira for what a caller, somebody says? And really, if you take that comment by the caller in isolation, the caller hasn't said anything wrong. He's a part of the Nigerian. He's a part owner in the Nigerian Commonwealth. If he believes that the Nigerian Commonwealth is not being spent well, he has a right to say it as a citizen, doesn't he?
That is extreme.
Yes, you find the station 2 million naira because the station allowed their platform to be used in that manner, and so on and so forth. You now have provisions in the code where if I say to you as somebody in government, or as they call it, an elder or something, if I say, "Oh, what you have said is silly," what you have said is if I say something that they term as derogatory, this station can be fined for that. So what you have is that, yes, what you have is a situation where there is pressure on radio and TV stations to just play it safe. So when I'm on social media sometimes and people are saying that, Nigerian TV stations, blah, 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 they are not, guys, all they just need to do is send DSS or whatever, and all of your investment goes into the lagoon. That's it. all of your, they'll just send, they shut you down, and that's it.
So what you've just said,
Go ahead.
Yeah. So what you've just said is why I'm concerned about this whole firewall thing. And I've raised it a few times now on Twitter today. Now, what you've just said shows that this is not something that is just unique to Buhari's government.
Mm-hmm.
You could go back to Obasanjo's, and I'm sure there are examples as well. So this is my problem with the Nigerian government as we have known it till today. Bad policies we tend to find it very difficult to do away with bad policies. If you look at our history, Obasanjo just being a blip. Obasanjo, if you really look at it in terms of our trajectory as a country, Obasanjo's 4 years between 2003 and 2007 was just in my opinion, was like a departure from the norm, and we just went back and we just carried on from Yaradua going on. When there was a lot of liberalization, there was a lot of unshackling in terms of government being taken out of areas that are not meant
the regulation,
a lot of deregulation and liberalization of the economy, which has led to some of the wealth that has been created today. Not some, a lot of the wealth that's been created today. A lot. Twitter that we enjoy today is all back. We can all trace it back to the liberalization of those years. Nollywood, our music industry, everything, a lot of
telcos.
Yeah, a lot of value that has been created today you can actually draw a straight line from them to that time. So my issue is that because we don't have a history of we don't really have a good history of getting rid of bad policies. If this firewall issue is successful, how are we sure? I don't know. I don't trust that another government will come and will just say, you know what? Because it's very enticing. Let's be honest. It's very enticing to be in power and to have that sort of power. I don't know Nigerian politicians to get into power and let go of of something that
we don't relinquish power. We don't relinquish power. We don't relinquish control. So
Exactly.
any part of any part of the government that has any kind of influence on the people or any repressive policies that we haven't really done a lot of good work in redressing those repressive policies. We rarely do that. Yeah. We most of the time what we do is when we have
what do you hello
Madu has been shut down in Canada.
Madu has been shut down by the Nigerian government. But while I wait for him, I'm just going to say that's the issue. That's the fear I have. I think what you might just find is that, like you will find with every government, maybe if we have a government, a new government could come in and will say, I will not stridently implement or go after anyone that violates that firewall, right? But it will still remain there. That's what I see. That's my fear. And the economic cost of having that firewall for a nation like ours is too great, in my opinion. It is too great.
I think. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I think the major problem or the origin of the problem is the relationship between the leaders and the people, in the sense of how they see them. I mean, all of us work in some kind of formal business sphere, and how we relate to quote unquote the people that pay for our services or our goods. You write an email, and your email is very careful, kindly find or please and stuff like that. But even when part of the government wants to tell you to do something that will benefit yourself and us, it's almost like an order. You get, for example, look at what happened with this NIN registration and all of that. It's just, you have 2 weeks to register. If you don't register in 2 weeks, blah, 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 is going to happen to you. Why can't someone come and say, oh, I'm sorry, guys, this is why I want you to do it, because it will benefit us in this way and that way. I'm sorry, you're just going to be inconvenienced for 2 weeks and blah, blah, blah. And it's that mentality they carry through practically everything else. They want to lord over you because, I don't know, there's this idea that everybody is against them. And until that changes, we'll probably still continue suffering from.
Yeah. And unfortunately, Jibril, that doesn't, and this is another thing that Nigerians need to understand. I think we need to really have a reorientation as Nigerians. The reason why we ask for institutions is because we don't want to be left at the whims and at the goodwill or at the chance or the luck of having a good leader every now and then.
Of a benevolent dictator.
Of a benevolent dictator. We don't need benevolence. We are all members of the Commonwealth of Nigeria. We do not need anyone's benevolence. No one is doing us a favor by being president or leading us. And that's why we ask for institutions, because what institutions do is that they take away the need for people being good. They take away the need for people being bad. They just focus on competence. They focus on the competence on on the basis on which those institutions are set up. So, for example, this issue of NIN, it will be a case of, okay, what does the law say? What rights do Nigerians have concerning this? And then in the area of competence, you now say, okay, if you want to drive this kind of program, what do I need to do to get Nigerians to want to do it?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because, and why would you get there? Because you are focusing on competence. You have human behavioral scientists on your team. You will have, every relevant area, every relevant expertise, you will have them on the team working together on that. That's how you come up with a policy that is designed to work. So, for example, with this NIN registration now, you won't come out and say you have 2 weeks, because you know that that's practically impossible for a nation of over 160 million or 200 million, whatever random figure that they say we are. Now, what you do is you first of all look at what like Jibril said, what are the benefits? Try and communicate that benefit to Nigerians. And then secondly, try and look for every way, design every means to make it as easy.
Simple and
because
easy
it's
for them as
something that
possible.
Nigerian leaders and policymakers don't always factor in. Make it as easy as possible for Nigerians to do it. As easy as you can stay in your bed and do it. As easy as you can stay in your room and do it. You don't need to go in. Once you do that, once you take away all the roadblocks, you do that, then you can now say, you've only got 2 years to do this. So you've got all the time to do it. So take your time and do it. You can do it from home. You don't need to queue up. You don't need to do anything. These are the reasons why we have to do it. By the time you put all those things together, what you now find is that you find like probably 80 to 90% compliance. Then you now have to deal with, then you now have a small figure of people who shall just, as you have in many countries, people who just want to question everything. And then you deal with those ones. And what does that do? What that does is that you have a small population that you have to police and you have to prosecute if necessary. And then you have saved yourself a lot of work. And then you've gotten the compliance, but we don't think like that.
It's also because, I mean, we can go on and on about the ineffectiveness of civil service and how the functionality or how efficient the civil services reflects the government and the particular, the entire populace itself. But one thing we need to understand is when the purpose of technology, policies will always change slower. Policies and politics will always change slower than technology will continue to change. So technology has to be a tool which drives and which helps you instill all your policies. Like what Bane said, if you are setting up an institution and you want the institution to carry out the task, as long as you can imbibe the technology of that day, you can get things done faster than if you want to, just politics. I just want to drive. This is just all I want is I want people to register for this purpose.
Honestly, we just.
I think also another problem is the lack of long-term planning, and also when you even plan, when you set to do something, providing fruits of that policy, which can win people over. talking about this NIN registration, for instance, I did mine in 2017, and this is 4 years later, right? And I still don't have a card. I haven't been called by anybody to come and get a card or whatever it is. So I'm wondering, how is it so difficult to actually print these cards and dispatch them to the people who have done it? You know the number of people who don't have official ID cards in this country. The moment they start seeing that they can get a national ID card that is a piece of identity that they can use anywhere, whether within or outside the country, more and more people would go and register without you pushing them. So,
Very simple.
So those are some of the things that the government needs to work on. It's not enough to just the approach of using threats, which is what you use for a recalcitrant child. If we were persistently recalcitrant, I would understand threat. But we've never had a culture of opening conversations with citizens. We've never had a culture of allowing citizens see the greater benefits of policies or of what government is doing. It's just a case of government is doing this. If you don't like it, that's the lagoon, jump into it. And if you don't jump into it, we'll push you into it. And I think that's why Nigerians don't trust their government much. That's why Nigerians push back many times when these policies are introduced. And also, you have government that introduce unrealistic deadlines. They make the process so cumbersome. I mean, until recently, where you now have private people doing the NIN registration, what you had were, government people. I'm even talking about before Pantami set the 2 weeks deadline. It was the guys at the National Identity Management Commission that were doing it, and they would do it at whatever time they like. You would go there, and there'll be queues, or sometimes there'll be no network or whatever it is. It was just ridiculous. So people didn't take it seriously because government itself wasn't taking it seriously. There was no efficiency in doing it. And out of nowhere, a minister comes and says, in 2 weeks, do this or you lose your SIM. And you know what it means to own a SIM in Nigeria. Your bank is tied to it. So many things are tied to it. So definitely the panic ensued. But if you had made it efficient, if you had made it easy for people to just say, oh, I have a 1 hour lunch break. Let me quickly go and do this thing and come back. And in 6 months, 1 year, they get a card in the mail or they are called to come and pick up their ID. More people would have done it, I assure you. More people would have done it. When you have a situation where government is willy-nilly about it, what do you want citizens to do? And that's why for every Nigerian problem, we always say, oh, I used to say that a lot myself. People deserve the leadership they get. Then I've questioned myself on this subject as well. Yes, people deserve the leadership they get because the leadership comes from the people. I agree. But if you are not going to be exemplary as leader, why are you vying for that position? Why are you trying to make yourself available? Because as a leader, you should rise above what is the median behavioral conduct. If everybody is mad, try to be the sane person. That's why you are leader, right? So it's something that has really made me go crazy for some time. Yes, if people deserve the leader they get, but if you have a country like Nigeria where everywhere you look is chaos, or as Professor Idris Abdul Karim said, everything is jaga jaga. Whoever aspires to political office, in my opinion, shouldn't be jaga jaga. Which is why Buhari for me is, I'm not surprised personally. I'm not surprised. Is just confounding. This is somebody who tried to be president for 12 years.
Yeah.
12 years.
Yeah.
He tried to be president for 12 years.
And this was it. This is what he wanted.
This is it.
Oh
this
my
is it.
God.
Since 2007.
This is the product. This is the product he tried to deliver to us for years.
Imagine if he had won in 2007. Imagine if he had won in 2007. He would have rolled back immediately. He would have rolled back.
I'm telling you.
He would have rolled back all of those
have.
GSM, all of those policies quickly. No.
Without a doubt.
Nigerians don't need cell phones. No. Take it. Bring it back. Bring it. Give it to us.
So that's why I'm infuriated by Buhari. you've been trying to be president for 12 years. You become president, and you couldn't put a cabinet together in 6 months. In 6 months, you couldn't put a cabinet together. And I'm not counting the months before he was sworn in. I'm saying from the time he was sworn in. He couldn't put a cabinet together.
That was when I checked out. I'm a very impatient man.
I'm telling you.
I checked out straight away. That was a massive red flag for me. I checked out.
12 years.
Literally, like 1 or 2 months into his presidency, he was still saying something. They were doing.
I was like, nah.
We have entered one.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Nah. We have entered one chance.
So I think these are some of the things that worry me, and which is why this Twitter thing, even though I'm going to go with my natural instinct, as I've said, Nigeria doesn't like being berated by the West. They, now that their ambassadors have spoken in Nigeria, most likely the State Department and the US and the UK Foreign Office are going to have their respective ministers call Jeffrey Onyema or call Malami if need be, and rebuke them. If that is done, and we've seen that, I mean, if I'm reading it right, Garba Shewu's statement yesterday said temporary suspension. So that could be leading to
a
something.
gradual climb down.
Yes, it could be leading to something.
Okay.
You know, so they don't have. I don't know if he has, because Nigeria doesn't have, particularly we can't give the West the middle finger. We can't.
Yeah.
If they pull their aid, the bulk of Nigeria will be on its knees. So we can't really give the middle finger. And once they pile on pressure, there's a likelihood that, you know, Jack is going to be reprimanded by Lai or Garba, and things are going to go to normal. But as we've seen with border closure, as we've seen with SIM registration, they could also say, yes, we are going to, but we'll do a couple of months. We'll shut it down for a couple of months to show them that we have some power and we can use it when we want to use it. So that is likely to happen as well. But I think more than that, what this government doesn't understand is that we have the world, it's not just Nigeria. We've gone beyond the point where some people sit down somewhere and just feed us the information they like. If you want to control us now, and by us, I mean everybody in the world, you have to use, you know, greater, bigger tools, soft power like America does with its music and entertainment industry. You have to use something like China does with their almost interest-free loans, and in return they ask you for access to your market, or ask you for access to your
airports.
Yes, but you can't use the approach that the Nigerian government is trying to use, where, you know, they limit what you can say, or limit what information you can consume by way of closing down channels. More channels are going to open. We are now in an entrepreneurial generation. Somebody is going to create something that's going to be getting people talking, that's just going to make Twitter look like a relic, you know, you know it.
I mean, Clubhouse is going to make a lot of, in fact, Clubhouse is going to challenge a lot of industries. I'm thinking podcasts, I'm thinking radio. I've been on it for some time now, and that's going to challenge a lot. That audio only social media.
Yeah, and Twitter Spaces as well. So people have gotten used to saying their piece. They've gotten used to not having gatekeepers. You can't now wake up and tell them that, oh, you have to get in line or else. No. It's like who were born.
Sorry to carry on.
Yeah, I mean, people who were born in 1999, for instance, they're 21 now. A 21-year-old is an adult. I think that's 22 years, right? Actually,
Yeah.
A 22-year-old is an adult.
Yeah.
A 22-year-old is an adult now. So, and these people were born into the liberalized media era. They were born into the democratic system. They didn't experience Abacha. They didn't experience Babangida. They were not born into an era where, oh, shut up, don't say that. If you say it, they don't understand that. they were born into technology. So they don't
Democratization
understand
of
what you're saying.
everything.
Of everything. So you can't now tell them that you have to live your life in a straight-jacketed way, or else they can't comprehend it. They cannot. So that's the era we are in right now. So if you want to take us back to 1984 or whatever era where you think that you can just flick on a switch and everybody behaves a particular way, and people who don't, you beat them with horsewhip. I think you are getting it wrong, and I think that's where this government, where people haven't told Buhari the truth. We can't go back to 1984, even if we could physically. It's not possible anymore. The world has changed too much for us to be living in that 1984 mindset.
Honestly, I mean, it's just like saying, after the printing press was founded, you now have maybe like in the 1500s, 1600s, after the printing press has become like the normal way of printing, you now come and say, no, let's go back to using scrolls.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't at all. It doesn't.
To want to do that.
But it has to be. But it has to be said that there are a number of issues, and which is why I said something earlier. I said there's some people who are dubiously intelligent within this government who could have made this argument. There are certain things that are being done, certain liberties that are being abused because people have the right to speak, or people have access to a media platform that doesn't have gatekeepers. So people go overboard. When people make defamatory statements, when people make statements that are capable of affecting
inciting violence,
inciting violence, hate speech, and all of that. All of these things are valid arguments. I don't believe that I don't believe that any right is absolute. And even in America, where the First Amendment right seems to be almost absolute, it still has its limitations, because once your First Amendment right starts infringing on that of other people, those rights will be curbed, right? So I don't think any right is absolute. So I think the Nigerian government can make those arguments. They can put laws in place, and there are laws in place. So all of these things about hate speech, blah blah blah, you can refine your laws to be a bit more contemporary, so that they can deal with some of these things and make your legal system work. The reason why Nigeria is so jaga, why even a policeman would rather slap somebody up than arrest him and prosecute him, is because they all know that the system is tiring. That person at the end of the day would languish in jail, and maybe that's not the intention of the policeman at that time. So nobody wants to go through that. We need to make the judicial system work such that if I'm on Twitter and somebody says something false about me, I can look for a way to track that person's identity, sue the person, and make the person an example to other citizens. Once people start seeing that, once people start seeing that, you can't just say anything you like without substance, without any kind of evidence, people will be careful what they say. But if people assume that, it's the jungle out there, and I have it's my data after all, it's my phone, and I can type or say and post anything, and there's no consequence. And by consequence, I mean legal consequence. They will continue to do it. But going about shutting down platforms or using state apparatus to intimidate people is not the way to go. It doesn't set the right example. It doesn't set the right precedent. If we use the laws that we already have, let people go through the motion of the law, and they are prosecuted or they are set free, it then becomes a reference point going forward. You know what to say, what to do on these platforms, and what not to do. And it becomes something that people get used to down the line. But this situation of, I don't like what they are doing on those platforms. But these people that don't like it, wait till next year they are coming. All of them they'll start doing tweet meets next year. All of them. They'll start doing tweet meets. They'll start meeting young people, start getting influencers to sing their praises.
When it's time
it's all about laziness, and laziness to do your work in an effectual way, where you can actually isolate the bad characters on the platform, and like you said, deal with them independently. Instead of doing that, let me just pull the plug on the whole thing and look back to when I need
exactly,
to
Jabril. It's easier to do that.
Yeah,
it's easier.
I mean, didn't we have? Sorry to cut you short. Didn't we have? What's her name? This billionaire. What's her name? She's She's a popular. Her dad is a billionaire, I think. And she's a singer as well.
Copy.
Didn't DJ Copy?
Yes.
Yeah, didn't DJ Copy
Yep.
sue someone?
Yep.
And the person,
Yep.
and the person came, did a video,
And apologize.
apologize.
Exactly.
Apologize.
Yeah, apologize.
So it works.
Yeah, it does.
Yes,
yeah.
it does
Absolutely.
work. It does work, and I think that's what all civilized societies do. If we want to move away from the Hobbesian state of nature where might is right, I think that's what we should do, where we use the laws to tame the excesses of members of society. Once people know that they can't just open their mouth and talk to you anyhow, they can be slammed with a lawsuit or they will be infringing some law. People are going to behave better. But when you create a situation where all you need to do is know the right person who you can call in moments of crisis, and you get away with it, everybody tries to become some kind of warlord. You have a military officer on your contact list, a police guy, DSS, that kind of country. You have a police guy, you have DSS guy, you have because you never can tell when you get into trouble and you need muscle to get you out of it. Instead of using the instruments of law that have been provided for civilized society together. And that's why we're in this situation we're in. That's why the government is getting all flustered about what people say about the president on Twitter or on any platform. Let them say whatever they want to say. If they say anything that is false, that is a threat to national security, that can be proven to be a threat to national security, that is along the lines of codified hate speech, then those people should go and answer in court. And if in court they say serve the maximum allowable time, then they do that. Other people learn from that. And if we think that, those systems don't work, we have members of National Assembly will pressure them to continue to refine those systems until we get a society where people can be civilized in a way that is respectable to everybody. But this system that we have is no different from, you catch a thief in the market and you set him ablaze. It's no different. It's still the jungle justice system that the government is trying to do. We don't like what they're doing there. Instead of, weeding out the bad people who are there or looking for a way to make people answer for what they've done, let's shut it down. And,
hard work.
I made a post the very day that thing was done. I said, so what's going to happen to Facebook? What's going to happen to
Instagram, WhatsApp.
Yes, because what you are going to do is people are not going to stop talking. They're just going to move to other platforms. They're going to move to other platforms, and you never can tell how much more potent those other platforms are going to be.
Mm-hmm. You definitely don't want people only talking on WhatsApp, because the kinds of conspiracy theories you see on WhatsApp, it's even more dangerous. You want it out. You want it out in the open so you can engage.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's exactly what you want.
You want that transparency with timestamp, date stamp, everything.
That's what you want. You want it open. And that's what they don't do. That's what they don't realize. And I thought they realized it by getting their army of bots online on Twitter. So I thought that, okay, these guys knew what the jig was about. That, okay, this is now what's happening. And so, you know what, we're going to rise to the occasion by getting people who also counter the narrative. And I think that's fair. That is fair. But to now say you want to shut the whole platform down, I don't get that. Look, keep your bots employed. After all, we have a high rate of unemployment. Honestly,
yep.
On a serious
note, it's just like if we pick sides now, myself and Bane on one team, Mondio and Tomi on another team, we are playing football, and you guys are hammering us 3-0 or 4-0, and we say, we're not playing this football again. They're taking the ball away to destroy everything.
It's like when we're kids, someone they are hammering, like you just said, someone's team is being hammered, and I'm not playing again. I don't carry my ball and walk away.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, it's been interesting. I think we've had enough time to discuss this, and we can gladly call it a day, even though we can spend more time talking about it. We can spend a whole day talking about these issues. It's just interesting to me to see that anytime our government make a big move, it's always in a repressive manner. It's always, negative. It's always to curtail something that we see to be, booming in a positive way, and it's quite depressing because we have youth unemployment that's more than 50%. Food inflation is crazy, and when you have unemployment and inflation, you are dealing with like potential chaos, right? And the steps that the government seems to be taking, they're not prioritizing these things. I'm not even talking about insecurity, but because when you have high inflation, unemployment, you are literally looking at high crime rate, and that's why you can see insecurity is not a surprise. But
And-
these issues are, they are the key issues that the government should be worried about. These are things that should be occupying them on a daily basis. But the biggest move they've made so far is to ban Twitter. And think about the response that we've received on this from the West. When was the last time they all came together to talk about what we've done so far? Like, I haven't
I,
experienced this in a long time.
not in a long time. Yeah.
Exactly. So we make a big move. So to tell you how big this move is, we make this move and look at the response. So, anyways, guys, Tommy, thank you very
Tommy,
much
thank you so much.
for blessing us
My
with your
pleasure. My
appearance.
Thank you
We are
very
very
much.
grateful.
You have to come back again, and
My
hopefully
Yeah,
pleasure.
under
definitely.
better circumstances.
Exactly, because
Anytime.
we still need to spend time to talk about like media, the business
Yeah.
itself. Because I know you speak a lot about your frustrations with the government in terms of the business side of media, for
Yep.
entrepreneurs, for independent practitioners. So we would like you to come back and talk about that. So we'll talk offline on how that can work. So guys, thank you very
No
much for your time,
problem.
Jibril,
Thank
Ade.
you.
All
Yeah.
right, see you guys
Yeah.
later.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
All right.
Cheers.